Hi there, it's Friday the 17th. We're actually at the SPACEGUARD Centre on the outskirts of Knighton. Now most people think SPACEGUARD Centre in Wales, just on the borders coming into Wales from Shropshire. An amazing little place. You've got a wonderful guy here called Jay, who obviously lives here with his wife and runs it as a charity, registered charity and a project. Why, you've got to ask yourself, is because the United Kingdom government doesn't think it's important enough to put money into such a valued space tracking object. Now, every other country around the entire planet has put money into monitoring asteroids, monitoring comets, monitoring everything else. But decidedly, the United Kingdom said, oh, it's not so much of a risk, we're not going to bother with that at all. How interesting when we've got Larsen Sea Shelf about to split off into the ocean, how interesting when we've got climate change happening, how interesting when, as we've just heard in this wonderful 1.5 hour tour, which is absolutely valued to come and have a look here at the SPACEGUARD Centre on the outskirts of Knighton in the United Kingdom. It's the only one of its kind, and as he just said very kindly, the Cambridge University donated one of its telescopes to the actual charity itself, and they now have it partly assembled, ready to hopefully get use over the next year to 2 years. What's interesting is, as he mentioned, is that there's other governments that are putting lots of funding into the projects for asteroid deflection, that especially America and Canada, they hope to have that live by 2022, which is quite convenient in my book. A couple of interesting things I picked up from the tour really was that all the images, as we see on NASA as well, everything seems to be so perfectly spherical, and my belief will always be and always maintain that nothing in the multiverse is actually spherical. The chap just said, well, actually the Earth's not spherical, is it? No. But then when we see images purported to be from outer space, they show the Earth as spherical in this perfect, wonderful dimension. Now, my understanding of that has always been, and always will be, is that that's because it's a distance issue. It's a perspective of space and time that makes things into different shapes, a bit like a square and a circle. They distort and change depending on the different types of light years that you're away from an object. His particular view was more about the fact of gravity. But then what if gravity doesn't exist? What if gravity isn't really there at all? That it's just a set of mumbo jumbo that's just been made up? Like there was a large portion of this planet's population that believed that gravity does not exist. We talk about the space aspect, and there was a lot of talk about the various satellites and things in space. But one has to understand what space really is, because we have an International Space Station that actually sits within the Earth's atmosphere. So should it not be an atmosphere station, not a space station? Because it's not actually in space. It's sitting on the tips of the atmosphere. So that was a very interesting point as well. I'm sure there'll be lots of comments on this video when it goes live, and quite frankly I don't care. I wouldn't be saying it otherwise. But what's really interesting is that sometimes perhaps it's really helpful for the human race to think outside the box and think about things that they see with their own eyes and say, well, perhaps it's not as clean cut as you think.